Okay. So I think we were talking about the destination for humankind and the path that you need to take to get there, and how the path to that is to study humans. That's how we'll reach the ultimate destination that humans need to reach. And we won't reach that destination by studying metals, not by studying plants. We'll have to study humans to reach that destination. And that also the fact that, well, we seek a stable, certain ultimate destination without which we feel a little uh, dissatisfied and unfulfilled. So I think that's what we were talking about. Manjuji, do you have anything from last time that you want to talk about? Or Pashwa Didi also, since you've also caught up, I think. Oh yeah, you said you had some things to say.
For me, you're talking about me?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but mine are like from mine are unrelated in the sense that of the last one necessarily. So maybe I'll ask some other time.
Okay, okay. Let's do that because
I'm good for now.
not because it'll waste time, because I think I would have done it now, but my signal is not so good. So I'm not able to hear you as clearly. So let's do it when I'm back in Dehradun, and
Sure.
then we can talk about it in class.
I don't know why. I'll just go out and come in. Matlab, I'll exit and I'll just enter.
Why? What happened?
I can't find mute and I can't find.
You're not mute.
Video.
If you want, I can mute you.
And where am I? I don't know. I can't find anything.
Oh.
Okay, stop video.
Okay.
हो
Hi.
गया.
अच्छा ठीक है. Okay. Hi Prachi. Oh, hello. Prachi, anything from last time?
Hi, Prachi. Hi. No, nothing.
ठीक है. Okay, let's start. I'm just in a hurry, a little bit of a hurry today because I don't know net कब टूट जाएगा. Okay.
वो निश्चित विधि से ही वो निश्चित मंजिल मिलने वाला है, नहीं तो वो भी मिलने वाला नहीं है. तो वो क्या है? मनुष्य का अध्ययन से ही मनुष्य जाति के लिए उपकारी है. ये प्रश्न तो बना ही है. उसका उत्तर वही उन्हीं को देना चाहिए जो इस बात पर तुले हैं. मेरा अनुभव ये कहता है, मनुष्य की जीवन शक्ति को कितने भी उपयोग करो, वो कोई घटने वाला.
Right, we had ended on that intellectual property right discussion about how we have tried to, in different ways, we have tried to reach our destination, whether it was through creating, but those methods are not going to lead us to that destination, whether it's preparing chemical pesticides, studying metals, or coming up with, or privatizing human creativity, which he said that is basically what intellectual property rights are. And then there was a critique of that, and how the fact that since the Jeevan's powers are inexhaustible, therefore it makes no sense to set a limit. So therefore, how can you set a limit to them? How can you set any sort of unitary value to a product of something that's coming out of an inexhaustible source? And he said, if I see no sense in that, and someone who, those people should answer this question, who are stubborn, who are insisting on this whole adoption of intellectual property right systems.
वाला नहीं है. इसी का नाम अक्षयता है. साधारण बात. आप अपने में अनुभव करिए, मैं अपने में अनुभव करूं. ये शक्तियां बिल्कुल यथावत, ताजा और प्रखर.
Right. So all our powers remain, no matter how much we use them, our powers remain as they were. In fact, they remain as fresh and even more refined the more we use it. So the more we use our powers, the more refined they are, ready and available for our next use.
काम है कि जानवरों का काम है. आप ही सोचिए, डंडा बजाते हैं, बंधता नहीं है। बांधिए तादाद बन नहीं सकती। इस विधि से हमारा जीवन शक्तियों को कितने भी प्रयोग कर सकते हैं, वो एक तादाद बन नहीं सकती।
So in this way, we can use our Jeevan's powers in as much to as much extent as we like, and in any way. There can be no quantification of our Jeevan's powers.
तादाद में आप बांध नहीं सकते।
You cannot tie it down in any sort of quantity.
बांधने जाओगे वो टूटेगा ही टूटेगा।
If you go about trying to tie it up, it will naturally break loose.
जितने भी आप बांधिए, बुद्धिमत्ता को बंधता नहीं है। बंधने के लिए हम सारा फिर डंडा बजाते हैं।
No matter how much you try to tie up intellectuality, it does not remain tied up. And what?
जितने भी आप बांधिए, बुद्धिमत्ता को बंधता नहीं है। बंधने के लिए हम सारा फिर डंडा बजाते हैं।
And in order to keep it tied up, then we make a loud hue and cry.
ये आदमी का काम है कि जानवरों का काम है, आप ही सोचिए।
Is this the work of human beings or the work of animals? That is for you to think about.
ये सोचने की बात है। तो इस विधि से हम माने बुद्धिवाद से भी हम अपने को कैसा गिरवी करते हैं, कैसा दास बनते हैं, कैसा शोषण के लिए माने आधार बनाते हैं, ये इसका एक नमूना बना।
So in this way, you can see that how even through this intellectuality, how we turn ourselves into girvivad. क्या होता है? To put what is the word in English where you put something girvi?
Mortgage.
Mortgage.
Yeah.
Girvi.
Okay. So how we mortgage our intellect and use it for exploitation and for profit, you can see.
शोषण के लिए माने आधार बनाते हैं, ये इसका एक नमूना बना।
And how we turn our intellect even for into something that can be used for exploitation. This intellectual property right is one sample of that tendency in us. How we can even turn our intellect into something we can use for exploitation. So, when he was talking about this whole thing that we try to tie up our the product of our intellect, we try to tie up our intellect so that we can sell it or we can mortgage it, but it can't be sold and it can't be made exclusive in that way. It cannot be used it cannot be owned basically. And so, and yet we make a
Sorry.
Okay, my signal had broken. So yeah, he said when we make a huge hue and cry about the people, about when we are unable to actually impose such intellectual property rights, and and basically things get shared and all that. So he's saying that is living as animals, not as humans. When we're trying to enforce something, when we're trying to do something that is not worth doing, and then we're trying to force it on, force it to work, and then making a huge hue and cry about it when it doesn't end up working. So, yeah.
ठीक है, ये भी हम समझता हूँ समाज विरोधी है, मानव विरोधी है, सह अस्तित्व विरोधी है।
This also, I believe, is in conflict, is anti-society, anti-human, and anti-system, anti-order, and anti-coexistence.
ये मुद्दा भी इसी ढंग से है।
So this issue is also in the same way, the issue of intellectual property.
ये बात यदि हृदयंगम होता है, स्वीकार होता है, तब हम समाज बन सकते हैं।
If this point gets internalized, then we can become a society.
नहीं तो नहीं बनेंगे।
Else we won't become
बुद्धि
one.
को हम शोषण का आधार बताकर, ठीक है, द्रोह विद्रोह का आधार बताकर, बपौती हमारा बुद्धि के लिए आपको टैक्स देना है।
By turning our intellect into the basis for exploitation, by turning it into the basis for aggression and retaliation, by taxing, by saying that that we must collect tax for our intellect.
ऐसा बताकर हम समाज बनाने के लिए घोषणा करते हैं, ये क्या सच्चाई है?
If we try to announce or declare some sort of society after making such announcements, then is this any sort of reality? Is it any truth? I'm not sure what means by सच्चाई.
सच्चा हो सकता है?
Can this be true?
इसको सोचने की मुद्दा है।
This is something
मेरे
worth
अनुसार
thinking about.
तो मैं जो जिससे अनुसंधान किया हूं, इसके अनुसार ये बिल्कुल मिथ्या है, सर्वथा असत्य है, बुद्धि को कोई क्वांटिफाई किया नहीं जा सकता। और
According to me, from what I have understood, this is utterly and completely a lie, a myth. It is a complete, untruth. The intellect cannot be quantified.
सारा मनुष्य का बुद्धि अक्षय है, कहीं भी सीमा में बिड़ करके वतने में वो रुकता नहीं।
All humans' intellects are inexhaustible, and so they cannot be limited to any, they cannot be reduced to any limits.
उसका एक मिसाल,
This is one example of this.
हम जितने भी वाङ्मय लिखा हूं, वो वाङ्मय लिखते तक में मैं उससे बहुत बड़ा मैं स्वयं अनुभव किया है।
All the literature that I have written, while writing that literature, throughout that process, I have experienced myself to be much vaster, much more vast than that literature.
मैं अपने में अभी तक जितने भी यंत्र बना है उससे हम बड़ा हूं।
I in myself am much larger or much more vast than any machine or tool that has been built up till now.
मानव जाति बड़ा है ये, क्योंकि मानव से यंत्र बना है।
All of humankind is naturally larger, more vast, because it is by the humankind that these machines have been built.
और जो मानव से ही सारा किताब लिखा गया है, सभी किताब से बड़ा मानव है।
And it has been humans themselves who have written all the books, all the literature. And therefore, humans are much larger than any of these books.
यह बात पर हमको आने की आवश्यकता है। ये यहाँ इस जगह में आए बिना हम अपने सद्बुद्धि को प्रयोग करेंगे, हमको कुछ दिखता नहीं।
This is the point we all need to reach. Without having reached this point, I do not believe, I cannot see how we will be able to employ our wisdom, sadbuddhi.
यदि आप लोगों को दिखता होगा, वो आप प्रस्ताव रखेंगे। यदि सहज है वो स्वीकार योग्य होगा ही।
If any of you can see how this is possible, you will naturally set forth such a proposal. And if that proposal is natural, it will be accepted.
हमको भी स्वीकार होगा, आपको भी स्वीकार होगा।
It will be acceptable to me as well as to you.
ये बात पर सोचने की कथा है।
So this is something to be thought about.
तो इस प्रकार से हम हमारा कर्तव्यों के बारे में काफी बिंदुओं पर अपन ध्यान दिए। इससे शायद सोचने पर सब अपने में ही वो औचित्यता को स्वीकार सकता है।
So this is, in this way we've drawn attention to a lot of issues that are worth thinking about, and drawn attention to our own our own doings, my kartuton, what humankind themselves have gone and done.
स्वीकारने के क्रम में यही आता है, हमको समझदार बनना ही है.
So in this process of acceptance, what we reach is that we must become knowledgeable.
अंतिम बात, अंतिम जो स्वरूप बनती है वो यही बनता है.
The final point and the final thing that we reach, the final notion, conception that we form is this.
समझदार बनने के लिए कोई खास तकलीफें नहीं है. तकलीफ सारा जो है नासमझी के प्रयोग में ही.
And there is no great difficulty in becoming knowledgeable. All the difficulties lie in attempting to live by lack of knowledge.
ठीक है, ये कैसा हम देखें.
This is something I have seen.
देखिए, ये धरती अपने में एक है. इसको हम भाग विभाग कर अनेक राष्ट्र के रूप में हम देखते हैं.
So see, this earth in itself is one. And what we do is we go about looking at it in we look at it in terms of several divisions in the form of nations.
स्वीकारते हैं. इतने ही नहीं करते, हर एक भूखंड के चारों तरफ और सेना को खड़ा करते हैं.
So this is how we go about looking at it, and that is not that is how we accept it. And that is not all. We also, around each segment of land, we also we also position an army.
दूसरा भी खड़ा करता है, जब चाहे तब झड़प करता है.
So the other also goes about doing the same, and whenever they wish, they can lash out at each other.
तब हाथापाई करता है. तो मनुष्य को धरती तो टुकड़ा टुकड़ा हो नहीं सकती. टुकड़ा करने की पश्चात कोई रह भी नहीं सकता आदमी.
And end up fighting each other. However, the land is not actually broken up into fragments, and you cannot even live in fragments of this earth.
तो उसको टुकड़ा ही मान करके, जबकि टुकड़ा नहीं है, क्या हम सच कह रहे हैं आदमी के सामने?
So by accepting it to be a fragment, whereas while it's actually not a fragment, then when we do this, are we speaking the truth to other people? Are we being truthful?
सच्चाई को क्या प्रकट भी कर रहे हैं? ये एक सोचने की मुद्दा है.
Are we even manifesting the truth? This is something worth thinking about. So here, this is an elaboration on the fact that he said there is no difficulty in understanding. The difficulty lies when we try to live without understanding, when we become complacent and try to live without having understood based on our beliefs that are not rooted in actual knowledge and understanding. So we can have any sort of random beliefs that, there are boundaries on the planet. We can concoct these boundaries and try to live by them, and then we will face a lot of difficulties because that's not the truth. We've not understood that. Similarly, that whole intellectual property thing, we can start to accept that, we've quantified some sort of intellect by calling it a product of our intellect or calling it intellectual property, and then try to enforce it. And then we'll face difficulties in trying to do that. Because actually, no such thing really exists. And if only we bothered to understand and live according to what does exist, we wouldn't face these problems.
हमारा लबराई कैसा घर किया है, उसका एक उदाहरण है.
What was labrai? You had told me once, I think.
Like over smartness kind of thing, I think. Like Hoshiari.
So he's
Not
saying,
like positive sense में, like Labrai is trying
yeah,
to
like, yeah, getting ahead of ourselves.
cleverness, yeah, kind of cleverness.
Yeah. So yeah,
Like arrogance, not arrogance.
yeah, basically arrogance regarding your intellect, I suppose.
Right.
I've understood it all actually. So a conceit regarding one's intellect. So yeah, he's saying this is the level of our conceitedness or our over smartness. And I forgot what he said after.
बड़ाई कैसा घर किया है उसका ये एक उदाहरण है.
So he's saying this is just one example of how our conceitedness has established itself in our society. Ghar kiya hai, matlab now it's made it its residence. We're so conceited and we've established it so far that we forget that there is an alternate. Our conceitedness has made itself home in our society.
हमारा लबराई माने झूठ बोलने वाला प्रवृत्ति कैसा घर किया है उसका एक मिसाल है ये. उसके बाद दूसरा मिसाल.
So this our conceitedness, that means our tendency to lie, how that has fully established itself. This is but one example of that. Another example of that is,
तो हम मानव जो है संस्कार अनुषंगी इकाई है. मनुष्य को भाग विभाग करने के लिए रंग और नस्ल के आधार पर हम सोचा.
So another example of that is, so us humankind, we are a sanskar concordant entity, and in order to divide humanity and to create sections and segments, we started to distinguish on the basis of color and race.
जैसा जानवरों में होता है.
Like it is found in animals.
हम कितने बुद्धिमान हैं.
How wise are we?
तो बुद्धिमत्ता को परिशीलन करने के लिए ये मुद्दा है. मनुष्य समझदारी के आधार पर मनुष्य है, ना कि नस्ल और रंग के आधार पर नहीं.
So this is something worth testing out our wisdom on. So human beings are humans on the basis of their understanding, not on the basis of their color and their race, not on the basis of their color and their lineage, rather.
मनुष्य का मूल्यांकन नस्ल और रंग के आधार पर हो नहीं सकती.
So humankind cannot be evaluated on the basis of their color and their lineage, race.
इस बात पर पहले भी काफी अच्छे घटनाओं को हम देख चुके हैं. ठीक है, वो घटना के मूल में एक स्मरण किया जा सकता है.
Regarding this, we have even earlier we have come across some very great events, and such events can be recalled.
दास युग, उसका विरोध. ठीक है, उसके बाद राजयुग, उसका विरोध.
Recalled as the age of slavery and its and rebellion against that. Then the age of Rajyog would be
Kings.
Kings or monarchies. Yeah. King. Monarchical age, and then a rebellion against that.
राजयुग से प्रजातांत्रिक युग में संक्रमित होने के लिए मानव अपने को अर्पित किया है.
Humans have dedicated themselves to transitioning, to evolving basically from the age of monarchies to the age of democracy.
और नस्ल युग, रंग युग के युग से मुक्ति पाने के लिए भी प्रयत्न किया है. ये दोनों गवाहियां हमारे सम्मुख ज्वलंत रूप में है.
And he has also attempted and dedicated himself to move beyond the age of race and color. And these two are very relevant and very um, uh, pressing testimonies to the fact.
किंतु ये समाजवादी या मानववादी विचार पर हम व्यवस्था, शासन या व्यवस्था करने के लिए अभी तक हम निष्णात नहीं हो पाए हैं.
However, we have not yet become determined to live by these socialist and behaviorist, and here behaviorist is not the same as the psychology school of behaviorism, but these socialist and behaviorist ideals. Let me just listen again.
या मानववादी विचार पर हम व्यवस्था, शासन या व्यवस्था करने के लिए अभी तक हम निष्णात नहीं हो पाए हैं.
Yeah, so we have not yet been determined to live by, to organize according to, or to govern ourselves according to these socialist, humanist, and behavioral values, ideals, and ideologies.
हम ये मानते हैं हम निष्णात हो गए हैं, लबराई यहाँ है.
We believe that we have become determined, and that is where our conceit lies.
माने झूठ का जड़ यहाँ है.
This is the root of the lie. I find this very interesting. He's saying these ideals that we have talked about when we moved from the age of monarchies, from the age of slavery and racism towards democracy, the values that were touted were socialism and humanism and behavioral, fraternity, equality, and such values. And although we haven't actually lived up to them, although we haven't dedicated ourselves, our societies, to living up to those, we've convinced ourselves, we keep telling ourselves that we have, that these are the values we are upholding. And that is our conceit.
झूठ का स्रोत यहीं से है. हमें मानते हैं हम माने बढ़िया हम पा गए हैं. क्या पा गए भाई?
This is where this is itself the source of the lie. We believe that we have reached some great achievements, but what have we achieved?
सुविधाओं को पाए हो और क्या पाए हो भाई?
We have only achieved some sorts of conveniences. What else have we achieved?
और क्या चीज पा गए? लड़ाई तो वैसे ही सोचना है.
What else have we achieved? We still fight in the same way.
द्रोह को वैसे ही सोचना है, विद्रोह को वैसे ही सोचना है, शोषण को वैसे ही सोचना है.
We still think about fighting. We still think about aggression. We still think about retaliation. We still think about exploitation.
द्रोह को वैसे ही सोचना है, विद्रोह को वैसे ही सोचना है, शोषण को वैसे ही सोचना है. समय समय की बात है जो जिसको शोषण कर जाए. समय समय की बात है जो जिस पर युद्ध करके दूसरों को मार डालें.
It is merely a matter of incident, who exploits whom and who wages war on whom.
मर जाए.
Who dies. It is merely incidental. Who is the exploiter and who is exploited? Who wages the war against whom? Who is the one who ends up dying?
ये समय समय पर घटित हुई इतिहास पन्नों में रंगा हुआ है. इसको आप हम सब समझते हैं.
So this is the kind of recurring, these are the sorts of recurring events of history that have been documented in the books, in our history books.
पन्नों में रंगा हुआ है. इसको आप हम सब समझते हैं.
So these are the sort of events that have colored the pages of history. This is something we all understand.
तो लबराई का स्रोत कहाँ हुआ? एक तो राष्ट्र के मूल में लबराई आई.
So where all have we found the source of our conceit? First, we found conceit at the root of our nations.
धरती विखंडित होता नहीं है, हम विखंडित मानते हैं.
This earth is not actually divided, fragmented, and yet we continue to believe that it is, accept that it is.
लबराई यहाँ से.
I think conceit, and he also said a bit, is not conceit. Labrai
Labrai.
is like it's not now after hearing him while he was labrai, जिसका मतलब है झूठ, like झूठा दिलासा what we give ourselves, or झूठ. Whether we are saying it out of arrogance, but it's a lie. So I think it's more of a lie than ghamand.
Maybe hypocrisy.
Hypocrisy.
Yes.
Hypocrisy. That
Hypocrisy,
sounds
like
better.
lie coming out of your overconfidence, but it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the right one. We were looking for this word even when I was in Auroville, no, that was for Pakhand. Yeah, I think that's what he's referring to. So yes, the first root of hypocrisy is source of hypocrisy is at the root of the nation itself. There exist no fragments on this earth, and yet we continue to accept these nations or fragments of earth to exist.
सही हुई. धरती को आप विखंडित कर नहीं सकते.
You cannot fragment this earth.
किया तो आप भी नहीं रहोगे.
And if you do, then even you will not survive.
पहले ही आप चले जाओगे, उसके बाद है धरती विखंडित होगा.
First, you will disappear, and only then will the earth fragment.
आप कर नहीं पाएंगे.
You will not be able to
ठीक
do
है.
it. Okay?
झूठा का जड़ ये राष्ट्र की सीमाओं में जर्मिनेट हुआ.
So the first roots of lie germinated in the boundaries of our nations.
यहीं से उद्गमित हुआ.
From here they
उस देश में
emerged.
रहने वाले या धरती में रहने वाले आदमी के लिए यही उपहार में मिला राष्ट्र की.
And it was this that was received as a gift by the people who lived in those nations. This lie.
के नाम से.
And this gift went by the name of nation.
ठीक है. उसका उल्टा और एक ले आए हम शक्ति केंद्रित शासन.
All right. And then along with that, beyond that, we brought another thing called power-centric rule or authoritarian rule.
संविधान सर्वोपरि, राष्ट्र सर्वोपरि, यह माना गया है.
Constitution. The constitution is sarvopari is the highest most authority, and the nation is the highest most authority. That is when
और राष्ट्र का मूल में संविधान ही सर्वोपरि है.
and in the root of the nation it is but the constitution that is highest.
संविधान का क्या मर्म निकला? कुल मिलाकर के शक्ति केंद्र शासन होना.
And what was the essence that we derived from our constitution? At the root of it, it is nothing but authoritarian rule.
शक्ति केंद्र का मतलब गलती को गलती से रोकना है, अपराध को अपराध से रोकना है, युद्ध को युद्ध से रोकना है.
Authoritarianism means stopping trying to tackle mistakes with other mistakes, crimes with other crimes, and wars with other wars.
ये सभी इस धरती के छाती पर जितना राष्ट्र है, जितना संविधान है, सभी संविधानों का हसरत यहाँ दिखा.
all the nations that exist on the face of this earth, all their constitutions have this. This is the essence that can be derived from all the constitutions of all the nations on the face of this earth.
That's an
मुझको
interesting
ऐसा
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying that's an interesting way to describe authoritarianism, no? Like stopping the wrong thing with the wrong thing.
Yeah,
It's quite interesting to put it like that, no? Makes it very clear
yeah,
why
yeah.
it doesn't work and why it's unjust.
Yeah, it's interesting because he's talked about both of these things before, power centrism, basically, and authoritarianism, and this galti se, mistakes trying to be prevented by other mistakes and crimes with crimes and wars with wars. But to connect these two and why these are obviously the same thing is very interesting, as you're right.
It is very
Because any sort of authoritarianism is imposed, and any imposition is from start to finish either a mistake if it's unbeknownst to the imposer, or it's a crime. And of course, if you take it further, it's a war. So yeah, a good point.
दिखाई पड़ा। ये संविधानों का हसरत यहाँ दिखा, मुझको ऐसा दिखाई पड़ा।
So all these constitutions, this is the state of all the constitutions of the world today, or this is how I saw it.
और दूसरा दिखता नहीं। अब इसके साथ सामान्य सुविधा की चिंता असंविधान में कुछ देशों में स्वीकार किया है, कुछ देशों में स्वीकार नहीं।
किसकी चिंता?
और दूसरा दिखता नहीं। अब इसके साथ सामान्य सुविधा की चिंता
and no other can be seen. Now, along with this is this concern for basic necessities or basic amenities. In some constitutions, you can see this. In other constitutions, you don't even see that.
असंविधान में कुछ देशों में स्वीकार किया है, कुछ देशों में स्वीकार नहीं किया होगा, किंतु सामान्य सुविधाओं की चिंता कुछ संविधानों ने किया है।
So some nations might have accepted this, some might not have also accepted this. However, some have, some constitutions do express a concern for basic necessities, amenities.
उसके लिए भी सामान्य सुविधाओं का भी उपक्रम किया है। इसमें प्रधान रूप में यही उद्देश्य है, सबके पास पैसा हो जाए तो वो अपना लड़ लेगा, जी लेगा।
And for that, to that end, they have also prepared programs or associated measures in order to ensure basic amenities. And what have they done for this? They have believed that if each person has sufficient money, then they will be able to live.
देश है, सबके पास पैसा हो जाए तो वो अपना लड़ लेगा, जी लेगा।
Then they'll manage to strive and survive.
ऐसा सोचा जाता है।
That has been, this is how they
संघर्ष
think.
करेगा, जिएगा, ऐसा सोचा जाता है।
That the individual will struggle and they will live.
ऐसा अनुमति भी है। तो संघर्ष पूर्वक ही जीना है, यही सब घोषणा कर रहे हैं। संघर्ष के साथ ही अस्मिता बना रहता है।
And this is also the permission that has been given, because it has been believed that that life has to be lived with struggle. That struggle is a natural part of life.
यही सब घोषणा कर रहे हैं।
This is what everyone
संघर्ष के
declares.
साथ ही अस्मिता बना रहता है, ये भी घोषणा है। इन घोषणाओं के साथ हम लापरवाही कर रहे हैं।
Asmita. What is Asmita? Do you know Asmita? Oh, our identity. Oh, yeah. So it is with such declarations of struggle is a natural part of life that we associate our identities even. That life is all about struggle. So it is with such declarations that we associate our identities, and it is in such declarations that we are doing another form of hypocrisy.
सच्चाई कर रहे हैं, ये सोचोगे कि नहीं सोचोगे? के साथ ही अस्मिता बना रहता है, ये भी घोषणा है। इन घोषणाओं के साथ हम लबराई कर रहे हैं, सच्चाई कर रहे हैं, ये सोचोगे कि नहीं सोचोगे?
So with such declarations, are we doing hypocrisy or are we doing the truth? Will we think about this or won't we?
सोचोगे या सोच में नहीं करोगे?
Or won't you think about this at all?
सोच के देखिए
Think about
कैसा
it.
बनता है।
How does it pan out?
सारा लबराई की शुरुआत इस जगह में से शुरू है।
All this hypocrisy starts out from this point.
उसके बाद तो हमने उसके साथ और बाकी भाई बंधुओं का जो कुनवा है वो सब जुड़ा है, उसी के साथ धर्म भी जुड़ा है, उसी के साथ व्यापार जुड़ा है।
Then along with this, we also have associated kunba. Kunba are like little groups. Oh, like groups of family. So he said
Tribe. Kumbha. It's like
tribe.
a,
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So
well, not the original kind of tribe, but the how we
your
use the word now. That
family, tribe, people are like us or our brethren, kindred.
like-minded or something.
Yeah.
That group.
So
Like
this is clique. Yes, yes. So along with this, we also have associated the cliques of our brothers and sisters, of religions and of ideologies.
वो सब जुड़ा है, उसी के साथ धर्म भी जुड़ा है, उसी के साथ व्यापार जुड़ा है,
And
उसी के साथ
businesses.
शिक्षा जुड़ा है।
And also education is associated with this.
इस ढंग से हम लबराई की पुलंदे में दफनाए गए हैं।
So in this way, we have become buried under this huge pile of hypocrisies. Because all our systems, all our any sort of tribes we may have formed, whether they're familial tribes or ideological tribes or religious institutions or the institutions of business or the business of institutions of education even, they are all suffering under this sort of hypocrisy. One of which was the hypocrisy of believing struggle to be the root of existence, then believing authoritarianism to be valid and acceptable, and also the hypocrisy of accepting nationhood and these fragmentations on this planet. So we've been buried under
लबराई
this.
की पुलंदे में हम सब दब चुके हैं। हम उसे उभरने के लिए रास्ता के लिए फटफड़ाते हैं, कोई दबे ही रहते हैं।
So some of us sometimes try to Farfana is not trembling. They flap around, trying to struggle, trying to escape this pile, and others don't even do that. Sometimes some people most even continue to remain buried.
ये भी बात हुई है।
This is also true.
अधिकांश लोग दबे ही रहते हैं, कोई भड़बड़ाते नहीं है।
The majority continue to remain buried, and some also strive to escape.
ठीक है, उसमें से एक भड़बड़ाने व्यक्ति में से मैं हूं।
And out of those people, one of those people who have striven to escape, I am also one of those people who have striven to escape this pile of hypocrisy.
आप कैसा मुख हो? वो भड़बड़ाने व्यक्ति में से एक मैं हूं।
I am one out of all the people who have tried to escape.
ऐसे ही और भी कई लोग भड़बड़ाते होंगे, ठीक है?
Similarly, there must be many other people who have striven to escape.
ये हमारा हसरत आज तक की बनी हुई बात है।
This is our state as of today.
इसमें हमको और कुछ करना नहीं है, शिक्षा को परिवर्तित करना है।
In this, we don't have anything else to do we must transform education. We had started this whole thing with the fact that we need to understand, and we need to understand humans in order to reach our definite desired destination.
क्या करना है? शिक्षा में परिवर्तित करना है। तो इस ढंग से हम अच्छी ढंग से शिक्षा को हम व्यवस्थित कर सकते।
So what do we have to do? We have to transform education, and in this way we can very nicely systematize education.
सकते हैं। ये इस मुद्दे पर अपन विचार करेंगे।
So we will think about this topic. Wait, no, 12. What's time? It's almost time, no? Should we go on or should we talk? Oh. It's 7:28. You can do a little bit, do you think? One line or two, just to see where it's going. Or we can start afresh tomorrow.
We can do 1 or 2 lines more, because I think he's going to finish this part.
Yeah. So yeah, he's just basically concluded a long critique of where we've derailed as humankind, where we've become complacent, and actually in that complacency we've become hypocritical in the declarations we make and the life that we live. And so what we need to set that right, how we need to set that straight, is by, instead of being hypocritical about our understanding, to actually go about understanding. And this whole process of understanding itself is the process of education. So if we become complacent and hypocritical about our lack of understanding, and if we move away from education, then we will face the difficulties that we continue to face. We'll remain buried. And so the alternate, or our attempts to try to avoid that or try to emerge from that, are going to be the attempts to try to understand, and therefore to try to establish some real sort of system of education. And in this system of education or understanding, what will we be doing? We will be trying to understand what it is, what it means to be human, actually. And in order to understand what it means to be human, we actually need to understand what existence is, what we ourselves are, what is the self, the individual that thinks, who is this? So we must understand the Jeevan. And then when we understand the existence and the Jeevan, we also need to understand what this humane conduct is. So that is what transformation in education is going to be all about. Nyay or Mulya. So this is called justice and values.
तो तब क्या नाम हुआ आदमी का? परिवार मानव हो गया। पहले
This is cut from somewhere else. Okay.
मानव हुआ समझदारी के आधार पर, स्वायत्त हो गया। स्वायत्त होने से 6 सद्गुण आ गए, स्वयं में विश्वास, श्रेष्ठता का सम्मान, प्रतिभा और व्यक्तित्व।
I'll start this off, but I think this has been cut from somewhere. So he said, so first we have the human being, the self-reliant human being based on understanding. So on the basis of understanding, you have these 6 merits that you develop, which had already been discussed. Confidence in oneself, respect for excellence,
में संतुलन और विश्वास, श्रेष्ठता का सम्मान, प्रतिभा और व्यक्तित्व में संतुलन और व्यवहार में सामाजिक।
So a balance in one's talents and one's personality, social in one's behavior and in one's conduct, and self-sufficient in one's occupation.
व्यवसाय में स्वावलंबन, 4 अर्हता हमारे में समा गए।
So these char or these 5 merits become a part of us.
और ये 6 अर्हताएं हैं मुझ में जब समझ में आई, मैं अपने को स्वायत्त अनुभव किया ही हूँ.
And when these merits became a part of me, when I understood them, I found myself to be self-reliant. I have experienced myself to be self-reliant.
वो वैसे ही हम हमारे समझदार परिवार में हम अपने को समाधान समृद्धि को प्रमाणित करने में हम समर्थ हुआ.
And in the same way, within my family, I was able to evidence resolution and prosperity.
इसी सत्यतावश आपके सम्मुख हम प्रस्तुत होने की इच्छा व्यक्त.
And because of this truth, I developed this desire to present myself before you.
प्रकट की वो संयोग जुड़ता जा रही है.
And that serendipity keeps coming together, I suppose.
ये
So there are some cuts here. I don't think this will be in a flow. So let's pause here and listen to what this is going to be and how the flow goes. But because it's also time, anything that you want to talk about or look back at from today?
So is he saying like, is he saying two things? That one is we've made some wrong values, like say the intellectual property rights and the privatization of land and things like that. So on one level we've done those, and on another level we've actually, even if we've got the kind of correct values like say justice or peace and harmony and stuff, but all our systems and our values and actually how we live in our actual day-to-day life, where we base our actions on, aren't based on those. They're based on injustice and control and things like that. So is that, would you say that's what he's saying?
That's true, actually. He didn't phrase it in that way, but that's a fair summary, I think. That at these two levels, we've set up these sorts of belief systems. I wouldn't call them values, but yeah, these beliefs we've set up, which are really problematic. They're contrary to reality, such as nations and intellectual property and whatnot. And on the other hand, the beliefs that were actually pro-reality are beliefs. They're not yet values, really. They're just beliefs and ideals and hopes that were pro society, pro humanity, such as our beliefs in equality, fraternity, and self-regulation and brotherhood and all that. We have come to term, we have adopted those in words, but actually not really adopted those. We have not really dedicated ourselves to adopting them in our living and in our systems. So yeah, this is the contrast, and that is a good summary of the hypocrisy that we live in.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for today? Okay, Manjuji?
I was hoping you wouldn't ask me because I have so many things to ask.
Oh.
For example,
Ah.
it sounds so nice and it feels like it, at least in the family and in our environment, in each individual in their environment, it can work very well. And probably it was working well. But as the sphere increases, somebody is living, some communities are going back, not now when you have Google Maps, not those days. Some communities say they live near the ocean. They, of course, say, let's say they eat fish. Then some communities lived indoors, a little inside, and because they're far, they never travel to the sea. So they don't know a certain part of existence at all. So they cannot fathom how those people live the way they live.
Hmm.
So when they meet up, suddenly these two communities, suddenly 2,000 or 200 of this community and 200 of them were placed next to each other. They will smell different, they will look different, they will behave so different. Everything. There'll be struggle. Because each one will say, I'm right here, I've been living like the whole community lives like this. Why you people look aliens to us? So how can that same formula apply? Okay, now we can talk about all this because we know that the Eskimos live like this and they have this limitation. There's too much ice there. They can't do what we do. Those kinds. So we can still hope to understand another human from another geographical, political, climatical kind of a thing.
Hmm. Right. So
So
this
if
is,
suppose,
you've answered
suppose
it yourself, no?
no,
Like in one way, like we know,
how
therefore we're able to accept it better. And this is a little phrase that
no, even then we can't, no, because we are still from different places. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, we're better
See,
equipped to be more accepting of each other because we're more knowledgeable
at,
of each other's
at that
context.
level, so we will accept. No, that we know. Oh, the
Hmm.
poor Eskimo dresses up like this because it's so cold there. That much.
Hmm.
But to live with that Eskimo won't be possible.
Well, if we
Because
had to live,
no, in another location, in a new location, not in his location or my location, say in another location. Obviously, and as a community, that 20 families of Eskimos living with 20 families, suddenly they were thrown together by some chance in one location. They won't manage because they cannot accept each other because they have not seen each other. They don't know why they're behaving, but it'll take many, many generations for them to become one,
it'll take some
become
education for them to understand each other, as has happened inadvertently or advertently in society. It has been several generations, and therefore we have become more accepting of different cultures. And basically, which is simply the testimony to the principle that when we know better, we do better. We haven't known, we haven't educated ourselves for so long. We've
so
accepted xenophobia, and that is
all
why.
So
And
all these things that are happening, all these things that are happening before I forget, are uh, are what we are trying to impose. Impose means we are trying to bring about some good changes in humanity by doing this, through this. Not we, but this is proposed, okay? But simply if humans met, not bad humans, the good humans, who didn't have meanness and exploitation, all these things they have not experienced, they haven't come to that level, where they think we're machines, nothing. Then, even then they can't accept because I think everyone is different. Communities are different, geographically different, food habits are different, looks are so I think, like if you put a snake next to me, I'll never be comfortable. Because I don't think it's something I can't, it's not my, it doesn't feature in my life. I mean, whatever it is, no.
Yeah, but isn't
I
that like
know.
when we are little, we think that, oh, I will never be able to do this. And then you grow up and you've gone through the
Okay, that's a small
training
example.
and education to be equipped to deal with it. And you're like, oh, actually, I
But
can deal with
then,
this. I know how to deal with this.
I know, but that is imposing another kind of education, how to deal with things. Naturally, I'm saying, naturally humans are meant to be diverse.
No,
Of course, the
naturally,
fact is we have become
naturally is an interesting word to use here, because what are humans naturally? That's what this whole thing about Sanskar Concordant was all about. What are humans naturally when they are born? If you
See,
leave humans
the-
with, if you leave a person, a child that was born in this coastal family, if you leave them with an inland family since birth, that child will become like the inland family.
correct. Of course, because he'll eat what they are eating. He will live in that weather. He'll have those familiarities, and he'll be fine, no problem.
Right. So naturally humans
What
are
I'm
this way.
saying is,
Naturally
so where,
humans are very, we become
no,
like we are educated to become.
that is also
Naturally.
natural because wherever they grow up, they'll become like that. That is the
Because
natural.
of their education and sanskarikaran, enculturation.
No, we're talking about before education and sanskar ke time.
No, this when a child is raised in a family which is very different from its birth family, what
Huh.
makes him like that family
That's
that he's
slightly,
raised with?
yeah, that's slightly different, taking it to some other place where I'm not talking about.
But
What I'm
that,
saying
what
is,
leads to that is still
no,
education and
no, I'm not
enculturation.
taking there. I'm not going there at all. What I'm saying is, first, that point को clear
Hmm.
करते हैं कि what was in my mind, that so when say this some group community
Hmm.
is by force or by some circumstance made, and the community that lives in the ocean, they start having to live together. And say
Hmm.
one is from Africa and one is darker, one is whiter, one is taller, one is, that type of communities with differences.
Hmm.
Then, even though they were living in humane conduct and good coexisting in their lot, among their lot, because they were living like that. There was no exploiting. These new things
That's an
hadn't come up.
assumption. That's an
Yeah,
assumption
of course
because
they
we
were,
have
but
no
they were living.
example
No,
such
yeah,
as
we have examples because we all
because no one is living without exploitation and aggressions. If you look at any
ever,
single family,
ever Stone Age, this age,
ever,
that age.
ever, because
No.
had we achieved some sort of harmony and justice, what would cause it to break apart? Because harmony and order means order is more powerful than disorder. What would cause something which is orderly to break apart and turn disorderly?
So then, what will cause?
Hmm.
How is it possible? I mean, I can see that some people are showing the light, and it should be like that. It'll be lovely, but how is it possible that even when none of this corruption was around?
But that's not the case. That's what he's saying.
No,
It has not, corruption has been
no,
part.
no, I'm saying when none of this corruption was around, nothing, there was no exploiting the planet, nothing. People just lived like janvars in the planet and all. So then there must have been coexistence. If you're saying then also there was not, then how can it come now when there's so much complication?
Because
Because
there
I
was
think
no.
also like
Hmm.
at some point people may have lived by default almost like close to nature or in a certain way just because but more like a
No, but
like
Jeshta is saying even then they didn't live like that. No,
No, they
they didn't
live
live
close to
fully for
nature.
sure, but they lived close
no,
to nature, they lived in a
not in
certain way, but it was
harmony,
not
not in harmony. No,
Yeah.
not in harmony through understanding for sure, and without the understanding you can't live in harmony, right? Because you will always come up against some friction, I guess.
Yeah. Our
And I
scale.
think also like in terms of like people looking different and stuff, that's again us identifying with the body, with habits, with how we eat, right? Because like even I think we all know that when we go to a place where we meet somebody who looks very different and has very different food habits, that if we relate to a commonality, like actually we all want happiness, we all exploitation is not acceptable to anyone, dishonesty is not acceptable. Those are the fundamental values of our selfhood, and if we accept those, then actually we can relate to anyone, and we actually see that we can live harmoniously with anyone, even if they eat some different food or they have a different diet or something, right? I mean, I think that we all have experienced that some people come from very different cultures, but when we don't come from a kind of feeling that acha, they are different, because actually we see that actually we are the same. If you see come from that point of view, then you will get on with anyone,
Hmm.
regardless of how they look or what color they are and stuff, right? I mean,
To the extent that we can see our commonality. Yeah. That is what we mean when we say, no, to see the humanity in the other, to go beyond the skin.
yeah.
I mean, we've all experienced this ourselves already. We don't do it in full measure. So yeah, we are not able to completely see the humanity in anyone, leave alone someone from a different lineage or color or whatever. But even within our own family, we're not even able to see the humanity in them fully. And so we are able to live harmoniously with each other to the extent that we're able to see their humanity and go beyond their superficial traits, be it their food habits or their color or their language or whatever. If we get stuck on those, then naturally we'll see the differences. There are tons of
we're not
differences.
talking. See, the point is completely low. I'm not talking of us. We have YouTube. We know everything. We know kahan kaun rehta hai. Now it's our choice whether we understand or not understand, our knowledge. Those days when they couldn't even travel to the sea coast. They had never seen. They didn't even know sea existed.
No, but even then, we came here from there only, no?
But then we can't, when we are talking
It's
of that, we can't begin Aaj ka Jamana, no? That we
no,
have
but
to think. We are always
globalization is not a
worried about
modern
the color.
phenomenon. People have been traveling and meeting each other,
Talking of
and
color and all is now. Now we know the color. And we are easy. It's very easy to accept color now for us. It's not an issue at all, no? Because we've been seeing color for so long. We've
okay.
seen white, we've seen blacks. Abhi to we see, even if we haven't been to Africa and seen them in Africa or in America, we've seen them on TV at least.
So what are you saying?
So
Are
I'm
you saying
that humans, by instinct
hmm,
or by, well, God made a mistake making humans like this, that means.
no, humans
Because
by instinct, humans don't understand anyone because instinctually we are not animals. We don't have instincts the way animals do. If a child is raised in an environment in which the adults around them are accepting of people, the child becomes accepting of all strangers. If they're raised in an environment which is very suspicious of any differences, then the child becomes like that. There is no instinct that a child is born with. Even in Stone Age times, uh, we
it's
see
survival instinct.
instances. We
You
see
mean there's no survival
instances.
instinct? Humans don't have survival instinct.
What do you mean
There
by
are instincts,
survival
of course.
instinct? What do you mean by survival?
Like a kid sees a snake or a lion, he'll get scared. That's called survival instinct.
Not
And they have
all people,
not
not
instinct. So many instincts humans have.
not all people are scared by seeing
Not
snakes.
all,
A
but
lot
their
of children
instinct, survival
aren't.
instinct is there, no?
That's why I'm
Motherly instincts are
asking.
there.
That's why I'm asking what you mean by survival instinct. Because getting scared of certain things, that is also taught, that is also learned. So it's a very big question. It has been a big question for humanity, trying to figure out what is natural and instinctive to humans. Because some people say, oh, this is natural. Then you realize in other cultures, this is seen as very unnatural. So this is very particular. That is not universal or natural. And here, what is being proposed is that actually what is natural to humans is to adopt the culture and education, the culture and perspectives of the people that you are raised with. So that is what is natural to humans. When we are only looking towards animals, we adopt their mannerisms. When we have no other culture, then we often end up looking to animals and see, oh, animals do it this way, so maybe we should do it this way. And that is what is called Janvar Vat Jina, living animalistically. And that is what has led us to problematic situations. And
How do
whenever we have
animals,
tried to, how do animals live?
they're quite
Animals,
contradictory. Animals don't have those uh, habits like humans have. They're not cunning, they're not clever, they're not cheating, they're not corrupt.
yeah, because when
So
humans try
how
to
can you
live as
possibly
animals,
that? Animals are superior than us, I would say, in that manner.
no, animals can live naturally as animals.
Animal behavior.
Animals can live
No.
like animals very naturally. But when humans who are not animals try to live as animals, they
How do
fall into
humans try
these
to live
traps.
like animals? How do
When
humans try to live like animals?
when we say that our final ultimate goal is say sexual pleasure, that is living like animals. When we say that my loyalty is only towards my family, that is living like animals. Why? Because family is my biological units. Animals do behave that way also.
Animals don't have any families.
Of course they
Sorry.
do.
No, they just walk away from their families as soon as they're ready to hunt and
No,
that.
there are different
They
types
have
of
packs.
animals.
They have
Yeah,
packs. No?
they
No, so
have
they
packs of
have. You can't
animals.
call you. So
And
that
they
way,
have,
so it's not at all. Humans are not animal like animals at all. Even the bad ones are worse.
of
Humans
course, we are
don't.
worse
Animals
because
don't kill.
we are not meant to be living like animals. So we are not able to live naturally well the way animals do. Animals are able to do it all right. But humans are
I mean,
not
where
able
are
to.
we like animals?
It's
We
like
don't.
it's like a tightrope walker is good at walking on a tightrope. But if someone who is not a tightrope walker tries to walk on a tightrope, they will fall. That's not natural to that person. I mean, this is of course an analogy, and therefore there'll be gaps. But animals can live the way animals do, not in a very natural way. But humans, because we are not animals, when we
Now,
try to live as
when I
animals,
said that, then you say animal. Now I'm saying animal. We move to another point. So how can you compare humans to animals? Humans are living like animals. How?
if we see ourselves, if we live primarily by our bodies, That is what living animalistically means. Because animals live
In somebody's context. In
by their
somebody's context. No,
impulses
not
of their
in-
bodies. Huh?
In somebody's context, if you have, if you think you're a body, you're an animal. I mean, that's
Yeah.
somebody's context or somebody's.
Yeah, and there is a logic behind it which can be discussed, or you can give an alternate explanation. If that satisfies, then that we can run with that. But we haven't, people have, I studied anthropology. We have tried to define humanity. No anthropologist has been able to define what humans are. Leave alone defining humans, we have not been able to find the defining, distinguishing line between the animal world and the human world. Therefore, we continue to study primatology as part of anthropology to find the fine distinctions between what sets us apart from our primate relatives. We have not been able to define animals because we have not been able to define humans. So here, what Baba is proposing is that animals are animals because they are conscious units being governed by the body. Humans are humans because they are conscious units running a body in which the conscious unit is primary, not the body. That is him for the first time providing a clear definition of what it means to be animal and what it means to be human. Because up till now, materialist science, basically science, has not been able to define either.
Some people are looking at it like that, but science, we all know, most people knew always, ever, that we are not like animals, and we are definitely have a conscious unit, and we are definitely not machines. I mean, just as some people think like that, there's a equal amount who know that they are not.
Yeah, I think to understand what people think, it's because a lot of people don't really know how they conceive of people. When we say mechanical, machine-like, that is a word that has explicitly been articulated by people who have become very self-aware of their ideology. A lot of the times, we continue believing in something and we haven't articulated it. But when we go about articulating it, we realize, oh, this is what I believe. And if I were to give a word to it, it would be animalistic or mechanical or extra material, supernatural, or something like that. But until we articulate what we do believe, there is no way to say whether we believe this or that. So it's better to talk about what these other people do believe rather than what they don't believe.
I'm lost. Okay.
Okay. ठीक है.
We lose the main question. जाके कहाँ चला गया?
Okay, let's try to articulate it again and we can start from it next time.
We'll see.
ठीक.
Okay,
Okay,
thanks.
all right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.